Bonjour. A 16-year-old has travelled to Marseille. Now, I know what you're thinking. Is he there for a piss-up? No, he's not there for a piss-up. He's actually been included in the Newcastle United Champions League squad. Yes, Geordies, welcome back to another episode. The first thing, as always, I hope everyone's well. We do play in the Champions League tonight, and it's a beautiful game. We've travelled to Marseille to take on the French Giants. So in this episode, we're going to look at what Eddie Howe's had to say in his press conference. We're going to look at what Tino Livramento said after the Manchester City game. Then I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about 16-year-old Sam Alabi. Let's just get the elephant out of the room. Yes, I've been fighting with lions again. That's why I've got cuts in my top. To be honest, it's just what I do on a Tuesday morning. Every Tuesday morning, I fight with lions. You're probably sitting there thinking, nah, you've just been battling cats. I tell you something. This is a secret. I am scared of cats. Like, petrified of cats. I'd actually rather fight a lion than a cat. But look, let's forget about that. We'll play tonight in the Champions League. Let's be brutally honest about it. 3 points qualifies us for at least a playoff place. Last year in the Champions League, 12 points secured a playoff place. So a win tonight would actually put us in a comfortable position because then we can rotate heavily for the rest of the game. So it's going to be interesting what Eddie Howe does. But he has been speaking in the press conference about this game against Marseille. And the first thing he said was, we were aware when the draw was made that this was going to be a special fixture. This will be a difficult game in a testing environment. Now, I've already done my match preview and I spoke about the home form of Marseille being incredible. Let's just speak about this stadium for a second because that stadium is beautiful and their fans do make it hostile and very noisy. So this will be a good testing character for Newcastle United. I actually enjoy that we're getting these experiences in our team. And I think going to games and atmospheres like Marseille just give you so much experience when you go to games like the Derby game that is coming up that we will be talking about very shortly because I've got a question to ask for you guys. But let's just look at what else Eddie Howe has had to say. He did say we are in the thick of the Champions League. We have to try and win every game. It's a nice stadium. And I'm sure the atmosphere will be red hot and we need to make sure we use that to make our performance stronger. This is what I like about Newcastle United. I actually see us as we've got good mentality. We can go to these places and compete. Watch us drop a stinker tonight. But what I mean is, putting like tactics aside, technical ability aside, when you play in the Champions League, you needed that little bit of nastiness. I think we've got that throughout our squad. The little bit of dark arts in football. And that's what I think we need to bring tonight. So I do think the team selection from Eddie Howe will be interesting tonight. I think it's going to tell us a lot on what his thoughts are. But I'm the type of guy that wants to win every game. You don't look too far ahead. So we can't be looking at that Bayer Leverkusen game before the Sunderland game. But if a win tonight would actually benefit us that week, because if we beat Marseille tonight, we can actually rotate heavily against Bayer Leverkusen. And then we've got Sunderland on the weekend, so we can give key players a rest. So it's going to be interesting what Eddie Howe does decide to do. But he did speak on the team news and who has travelled, who hasn't travelled. He said, we are boosted by the Manchester City result, which is obvious. Team news-wise, we are similar. We welcome back Dan Burn from suspension. Anthony Gordon and Emil Kraft have travelled with us. Kieran Trippier hasn't. Well, that just puts out my team selection out the window because I said to start Kieran Trippier at right back, maybe Tino Livramento at left back and give Lewis Hall a rest. So I think Eddie Howe's got a decision to make here. There's one or two ways he can go about it. You can play Emil Kraft at right back, play Tino Livramento at left back, and it gives us at least one side of dynamism. Or he can play Tino Livramento at right back and bring in Dan Burn at left back. Now, before you shoot us down, I'm not saying to start Dan Burn at left back, but considering how history's gone, I think he prefers Dan Burn over Emil Kraft. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Tino Livramento at right back and Dan Burn at left back. Now, he did say something interesting on the squad depth. He said, I've said it many times this season, trust in the squad is very important. We have some very good players who are desperate to play. We have depth to play all these games. Every game is different. The challenge is different. Certain games suit certain players. We want to win the game. Now, I absolutely agree with them, and this is what I've been saying. It's not about dropping players because of bad or underperforming. It's about picking the right players to suit that game. So if Dan Burn does play at left back, I would start Jacob Ramsey or even Joe Willock in the middle or even Lewis Miley and give Tonali that license to get forward a little bit more. So we do have options. And I'm going to be honest, I want Eddie Howe to trust in his depth a bit more. I want him to rotate. Look at Lewis Miley, right? I think he's more than good enough to compete and play in these games. We've seen it last time we were in the Champions League. That performance against PSG away, I thought he was incredible. He got an assist against Milan at home. So he's had these experiences. So there's no reason why he can't go to Marseille and play in this game. And I think that performance against Tottenham earlier on in the season where he did rotate quite a lot, I think that showed that these players are good enough and comfortable enough to play at this level. So it's going to be interesting to see what Eddie Howe does, because the way I see it, right, if you get 3 points today, that secures a playoff place, which means you can rotate happily against Bayer Leverkusen and give key players a rest for the derby. So that's one thing, because we all know how important that derby is, especially the first derby in the Premier League in several years. And the way Sunderland are going at the moment, that's going to be a tough game. A very, very tough game. But anything can happen in a derby, but you want your players, especially your key players, your most influential players, to be fit, healthy, fully rested for that game. So that's option one. Do we go full strength tonight? But if you do go full strength and don't get a result, then you've just shot yourself in the foot. So it's a big decision to make. Or there's another way of looking at it, because you can rotate tonight and then bank on your beating PSV at home or Bayer Leverkusen away and rest players for Everton on the weekend, because if we don't get a result against Everton, that result against Manchester City will almost count for nothing. Now, of course, you want to win every single game. This is not what I'm saying, but you've got to be clever and cute in how you rotate your squad, because the last thing you want, especially leading up to the busy part of the season around Christmas time, is the players burning out. So it is a really interesting dilemma, because Everton got a result last night. They went to Manchester United and beat them 1-0 with 10 men. By the way, if we do not finish above Manchester United, that is an embarrassment, because last night they were awful. No idea what their manager was doing. But if you're going to get sent off for slapping somebody, at least do it properly like Newcastle United did. Let's not talk about them anymore, because I really don't care about them, to be honest. But look, Newcastle United should be full of confidence going into this game. Malik Chow has been probably the best signing of the summer, in my opinion. He has been absolutely tremendous. He actually got asked about how he kept Erling Haaland quiet, and he spoke about his confidence and what that brings for his confidence, and what a player he's been since he's arrived at St. James's Park. Do you know the funny thing is, imagine if Fabian Shaw never got his concussion. We might never have seen Malik Chow excel at this acceleration like he has. And football is all about sliding doors moments. One door closes, another door opens. Again, another similar situation for Harvey Barnes. Anthony Gordon picks up an injury. Harvey Barnes steps up and absolutely tears Man City a new one. So we do have depth in our squad. So even if we rotate heavily tonight, we're not rotating to lose a game. It's putting confidence in these players that they can go out and get a result. And I honestly believe they can. But even Eddie Howe should be full of confidence, because in the Premier League, that's the first time Eddie Howe has beaten a Manchester City Pep Guardiola team in 17 attempts. And I also found another interesting stat. In 2025, only Manchester City have won more Premier League home games than Newcastle United. That win against Manchester City meant that Newcastle United have won 10 of their last 13 games at St. James's Park. So we all know we can get a result at home. It's all about that away performance, and that starts tonight. We're full of confidence. We've just beaten probably one of the best teams in the world. So what I want to see is us replicating our home form away from home. Now, we've got 2 away games this week. Hostile environment against Marseille, and then we'll travel to the new stadium of Everton. Speaking of rotating, there's a lot of combinations that we could make up tonight, because you've got Harvey Barnes, Jacob Murphy, Anthony Elanga, Anthony Gordon, Nick Valdemada. Now, my question to you guys, do you think Nick Valdemada needs a rest? Would you not start Nick Valdemada? And you've got a couple of options of what you can do as a striker. We all know William Masula is injured. So there's 3 potential options that Eddie Howe has. You could start Anthony Gordon as a striker. Now, I don't think Anthony Gordon's clinical enough to be a striker. You could start Anthony Elanga as a striker. Now, I don't think Anthony Elanga has got the finishing ability as a striker. Or you could actually start Harvey Barnes as a central striker, play Anthony Elanga on the right, and maybe Anthony Gordon on the left. So there's many different combinations that we could serve up tonight. So I just think this team sheet's going to be fascinating. Moving on, Tino Livramento did an interview after the Manchester City game, and he spoke about the confidence and why this can kickstart our season. He said, a lot of fans have been waiting for our season to kickstart, and I feel this could be the turning point. We've worked really hard in training. We had 3 or 4 really tough sessions working on things that the manager thought we weren't doing in games. Then he spoke about how the international break came at the right time, and spoke about how much quality we do have in the side, and that the fans bring a lot of energy to our game. And he's right, because our fans do bring a lot of energies, and that's why we've got that home record, because our fans are like the 12th man. And I always say, you can see I'm being biased or whatever, but we do have the best atmosphere, and in the Premier League. And I've got no doubt we're going to be very noisy in Marseille tonight. So let's use that energy in our away performance. But the reason why I want to speak about this Tino Livramento interview is because he was asked about his contract, and what he said was, "It is not something I'm in control of. I leave it down to my dad and my agent. I've been focusing on getting back after 7 weeks and helping the team. I am very happy about how I played, and that is my focus. Staying where I am now and helping the team as much as I can." Look, in my opinion, it's a must that we do tie down Tino Livramento to a new contract. Because, look, is he going to be around Newcastle United forever? I'd be lying to you if I said I believe that was the case. But can we tie him down to a new contract? So if he does eventually leave, we get maximum value for him, because that's what contracts do. A lot of people speak about contracts don't stop players from moving. They're there for you to maximize the profit you can make from that player, but they're also there to strengthen your hand in any negotiations. Contracts can absolutely be there to stop or prevent players leaving. Think about that Alexander Isak situation. We could have turned down that £125 million offer if we wanted. Would have been foolish to do it. But if Newcastle United genuinely didn't want to sell Alexander Isak, they could have just said no. So contracts can prevent transfers. But the most important thing about a contract is the buying club can now meet your valuation of that player. So I think it's a must that Ross Wilson does start or open contract talks with Tino Livramento, because you're protecting your asset, and that's what we need to do as a club moving forward. So there's actually 4 players I would actually start opening up contracts with throughout the next 6 months. First one being Bruno Guimaraes. His contract ends in 2028. And again, this is a must. Even if you put the things on the pitch aside, because we all know his quality on the pitch, he's a massive character in Newcastle United. In the dressing room, he embodies everything we want as Newcastle United fans. We've obviously already spoken about Tino Livramento, Sven Botman. I do know that talks have already begun. I also know that Sven Botman is happy at Newcastle United, and if he was to leave Newcastle United, the only reason being is if Eddie Howe says to him, "I don't see you playing in the future." All Sven Botman wants is game time. Then there's Fabian Schär. This is an interesting one because he's got 1 year left on his contract and he's been linked to Bundesliga clubs this January. The way I see Fabian Schär is, depending on our finances, if we've got enough money to strengthen in the areas we want to strengthen, and then add an additional, younger, more potential centre-back, as well as strengthening all those areas, I would let Fabian Schär leave. Now, if we don't have the money to do that, then I would tie him down to another contract just for 1 more year. But ultimately, it's his decision. I can see why he would want to leave, because he's probably only got 1 year left in him, so he wants to play as much as possible before he retires. So it's going to be interesting. I've made a video on this before. We're going to see a lot of movement in regards to Newcastle United over the next 2 years. So moving on very swiftly, we're going to spend 5 minutes just talking about Sam Alabi. I doubt he'll really come on, but it's nice to see him in the squad. It's nice to see him getting that experience, because being in around the first team is massive for young players, because once they get a little taste of it, they want more, and that gives them that drive to really get to that first team. So even if he doesn't come on the pitch, this experience will do him the world of good. So I'm going to tell you who he is, what type of midfielder he is. We're going to look at his defensive traits and his in-possession traits. So he's 16 years old and he's a left-footed midfielder. We don't have a left-footed player in our midfield or our forward line. So it's nice to have somebody that has a decent left foot, just to add a little bit of balance to our team. Now, he's a type of midfielder who can be molded into the kind of midfielder you want because of his technical ability and his game understanding. So I probably see his future as a deep line playmaker or a box-to-box type midfielder. He signed from Oldham on the 1st of July 2024. He's actually already trained with the first team about 9 months ago, when he was just 15 years old. And this season already, he broke into the under-21s and he's been capped by England under-16s and under-17s. Now, there's his statistics, under-18s, 19s, 21s, and for England. Now, you're probably sitting there thinking, well, what qualifies you to speak about this guy? Well, I've actually been speaking about him for quite a while now, and he is a wonderful talent, but that doesn't mean he's going to make it at Newcastle United. I'm going to tell you a little bit story time with the Mango. In 2022, I went to the UEFA Youth League and I watched a game from Ajax in Liverpool, and there was a forward at Ajax called David Callagher, and he tormented Liverpool, literally like the best player on the pitch. He looked stronger, physical, quicker, technically more sharper. His decision making was just so effortless. And I thought to myself, He's going to make it at Ajax. He's going to break through over the next couple of years. The reason why I'm bringing this up, he scored his first goal last night since March 2024. For some reason, something outside of football externally knocked him off his tracks. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because, yes, we can get excited about young talents because there's so many young talents out there that never make it because of external factors. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen with Sam Alabi, but you just never know in life is all I'm trying to say. So let's talk about his defensive traits. Now, the best thing about him is his positional awareness. He's so good at just being in the right place at the right time. He's like what I say, he plays with his brain rather than his physicality. And that's a really impressive trait considering his age. Now, when it comes to his defensive contribution, he reads danger extremely well. Now, he's not an elite ball winner. He's not somebody like Joe Linton that is robust and dive into challenges. He's somebody that is more calculated in the way he works. It's all about timing and engaging at the right time. He prefers to tackle cleanly rather than dirty, if that makes sense. So it's all about containing the opposition rather than robustness. And because he's a little bit more calculated and switched on in the way he goes into challenges, what I do really like about him is the way he retains possession after a challenge. Once he wins the ball, he immediately looks to progress play, turning defense into attack very quickly. Now, he is an active presser off the ball, but his pressing seems to be more about timing and control. He's not a player that will engage at every single opportunity. So when it comes to his defensive traits, it's more about discipline, good positional awareness, reading the game, and trying to be a little bit smarter than the opponents. So he's so good at just anchoring that back line. Somebody that will sit a little bit deeper in front of the defense and break up plays. Now, when it comes to in possession, I think this is where he shines the most. He's really composed, technically outstanding. He shows composure that belies his age, in my opinion. He's not a box crashing type of midfielder where you will see him in the advanced areas and getting into the penalty area. He's a midfielder that prefers to stay a little bit deeper and progress play. So his traits are all about control, progression, and rhythm. And when he's on the ball, he's not a flamboyant dribbler or a high-volume shooter. It's about control and ensure the team has structure and rhythm to the game. Now, what I do really enjoy about him is his technical ability. He's happy to receive the ball in any area of the pitch. He's got really good game understanding for his age. Now, he doesn't always get it right, but he delivers that awareness of when to slow the game down, when to quicken the play up. And that's a very rare trait for a 16-year-old. Now, when you combine his technical ability and his awareness, that allows him to receive comfortably under pressure, use his body to position and shield the ball, and recycle the ball intelligently. Now, what I do like about him, his first intention is, can I play forwards? I often speak about this, get midfielders that want to play forwards, but he's so good at just, when there's no progression play available, just recycling possession, keeping the game ticking over, and that allows you to open up different passing lanes to progress a ball at a different time. So he is really good in possession. He's so good at maintaining possession. He's got excellent ball retention skills and lending the ball forwards. Now, he's got a sharp change of direction that allows him to change his pace and his direction quickly to move away from the press. And he also brings that expansive passing range. He can play short combinations. He can switch the play. He can progress a play forwards. So he's really comfortable dictating the rhythm of the game. Now, because of the way he likes to play the game, he's often the assister before the assist. So he's often the one that progresses the play or plays that pass before the assister provides the forward. So he's the one that links up midfield to attack very comfortably. So I couldn't be happier for the lad that he's got this opportunity because he's been progressing since he arrived incredibly well. And the beauty about Newcastle United was starting out to add those additions and young prospects to our academy. But look, all I hope for is 3 points tonight, 3 points against Everton, and I'm a happy mango. But enjoy the game. My review will be out tomorrow. But until next time, away the lads.